Hello everyone, it's Katie from So Old Fashioned, and today I'm surrounded by piles of sewing junk, and I want to use all of this stuff to prove to you that you can buy almost anything for dressmaking secondhand. So first order of business, I'll pick up the self-covering button set that just threw itself on the floor before. Excuse me a minute. This is the start of a series I'm hoping to call the Sustainable Seamstress. I was watching a whole lot of zero waste videos yesterday, particularly Kate Arnald's Eco Boost, mostly because she has a fabulous voice and an amazing haircut. But also she has a great message. Let's get that straight. And it's got me thinking about something that's not far from my mind a lot of the time, and that is, what impact am I having on the world as someone who sews? And I think about it every time I put my little threads in my bowl, or every time I save up my scraps of fabric, which I haven't thrown out because I don't want to throw them out, but I don't quite know what to do with them yet. And my plan with this series is that I'm going to go on a bit of a journey, probably not literally, unfortunately, although it would be nice to have excuses to go somewhere interesting, but I want to find out how we can have less of an impact on the environment and what we can do with those annoying little scraps that aren't good for anything beyond just stuffing them in things. The only problem there being that I don't make many things that require stuffing. But I'm sure there's something else I can do, or possibly there's somewhere I can take my scraps and someone will do something amazing with them, which would be great because I don't want to put them into landfill. But to start sewing in the first place, you need to buy things, and obviously the first place we go to is a fabric shop. I go to Spotlight, which is the big chain store in Australia that has the most variety of stuff, or I go to cute little fabric shops whenever I find them and buy chicken print fabric that you can see in the background behind me. I have a plan for that fabric, by the way. Oh, and that crazy pink print that I showed you a while ago. I've worked out what I'm doing with it. That will be a future video. Stay tuned, subscribe if you haven't to find out. Spoiler alert, it has something to do with sewing. When I first got into sewing, and I think for a lot of us, it's a reaction to fast fashion, and we want to slow things down, we want to know where our fabric comes from, we want to know who made them, i.e. us. And I think that means on some level we want to have less of an impact on the world. And I know that was certainly the case for me. When I started looking at buying fabric for the amazing clothes I was going to make, I wanted to find out, how do I work out what sort of impact it's having on the world? And it's really difficult to buy fabric that is certified organic or isn't using up water at a crazy rate, because cotton is a very water hungry crop to grow. It's crazy the impact it's having on the world. I tried my best to do that, and often I failed because I don't have a lot of money available to throw at my sewing hobby or habit, you know, whatever you want to call it. Probably habit is more appropriate. So often I'm just buying fabric and not thinking about it, or trying not to think about it. But lately I found myself focusing on buying fabric secondhand, and it's amazing how much fabric you can buy if you look. And in fact, the pile of sewing junk that you can't see in front of me right now proves that you can buy pretty much anything. But today, instead of just blathering on and on about sustainability and trying to save water and all that sort of stuff, I thought I would just show you some of the things that I have found to prove to you that you don't have to go and buy things new. You can have less of an impact on the environment, if that means something to you, by going to a secondhand shop, or alternatively letting people know you sew, because I have picked up quite a lot of things recently of people saying, hey, you sew, have this stuff, and I say thank you very much, I will, that's great. My main drive for buying fabric in particular secondhand is that it at least saves it from going into landfill, and I kind of hope that the fact that I'm using it offsets the damage it's already had on the environment, but mostly it's just going to be something useful instead of being shoved in a hole in the ground. It's kind of weird how much I think about the rubbish going into holes in the ground, but I do. And I'm trying to do my best to stop putting as much stuff in those holes. So let's get into some of the fabulous things I found, and hopefully you will be inspired to get out there and source a lot of your notions and your fabric from secondhand shops. It is not as easy as just walking into a shop and buying what you need, but I think it's a lot more rewarding, and it really does slow the whole fashion process down. So if you're into slow fashion, this will help take the accelerator off as well. recommend it. You don't know where to start, everything's piled up. I'll start with the thing on top. Now this is one of my favourite purchases ever. It is unfortunately not actually shortbread, even though it's in a shortbread tin. It is an amazing box of threads, and some are relatively new and some are quite old. So I have a Silco there and Embassy, and oh, I have quite a lot of Silco in here actually. But it's beautiful colours. So there's this gorgeous bright yellow, this cute mint green, and I've found this fabulous for when I'm repairing things. I particularly used this pink. It is a perfect match for a store-bought cardigan that I have, and when the cuff was kind of parting company from the sleeve, sewed it back on with that. I love all the colours in here, it's beautiful. There were some scrappy ones that I redonated, but I kept all the beautiful ones. You can find threads all the time at op shops. You don't necessarily, or second-hand shops, sorry I keep forgetting. Not everyone calls them op shops, just us Australians. If you see an interesting shortbread tin, always have a look inside, because all the good stuff's in shortbread tins. So I mentioned this before, this is something I found recently. It is a self-covering button set, so it has the little mold that you push it into and everything. That cost me 50 cents. And I see self-covered button set quite frequently. I like the old ones that have the cat. I can't remember what brand it is. It has a really cute stylized black cat on it. Self-covered buttons. Who doesn't want to have a go at those? With 50 cents. And you can use scrap fabric that you can also find at the same second-hand shop. And here I have zips for days. This is the result of 2 second-hand shop visits. You will often find great piles of zips in second-hand shops. And the reason I go for the ones with the tags on them is because if they don't have a tag, generally they've been taken out of another garment, which is a fantastic way to reuse zips if the garment is damaged beyond repair. But I'm a bit of a snob with zips. I prefer to have the newer ones, because I love the classic lightning zips. Birch, polyester, and this one, because I'm planning to get into coat making, I have this fabulous open-ended zip, which I expect would cost me about 50 cents. The second-hand shop will have a million zips, but I would recommend look for the ones with the labels. Or if you're going to buy one that's been repurposed or taken out of an old garment, just give it a good test and make sure it's solid and it's not going to fall apart on you. Now I'm going to show you one random thing and a couple more practical things. My random thing is this fabulous Jiffy hammer. This cost me $3 and it's fabulous. Look at that. Just gorgeous. Don't mind my cat just getting into trouble behind. It's helpful if you don't have a dress form, or if you have a dress form that's stupid like mine and just won't stay up properly. This is great stuff. Now, in stuff that you're more likely to want to buy regularly, fabric and associated notions such as this wadding, which, as a further hint to the upcoming video on the fabrics behind me, will be used in association with those. And this still has its tag on. This cost me $2.25. There's quite a bit there. If you're into quilting or something along those lines, have a look. $2.25, whole bunch of wadding. Fabulous. And this one cost me $3.50, and there's a fair bit of this, and I think it'll make a nice little coat, and lovely and cozy and warm, and that sort of classic plaid check kind of print. One thing to be wary of when looking for fabric is to try and check it first. I found this recently, and given my obsession with polka dots, obviously couldn't walk past it. But I didn't investigate properly, and as it turns out, I think it's been cut off the bottom of a skirt. It's not as useful a piece of fabric as I hoped it would be, but I'm still hoping to use it for lining or for pockets or something like that, so it's all very handy. In the same shop I found this fabulous ribbing, which sort of shows up navy in some lights and black in others, but I'm planning to use that for all the knit garments that I'm apparently making these days. One of my favourite fabric finds of recent times is this lovely stripy sweater knit. I suppose it's the proper sort of knit, stitches on one side, pearl stitches on the back. And it's in a lovely, almost a sort of yarn dye stripe with flecks all through it. It's going to make a fabulous jumper for me. It's going to be great. My number one tip when you're buying fabric secondhand is just to investigate it. See what size it is, because sometimes it's a really random shape. And if that doesn't matter to you, if you're only wanting to use a little bit, that's fine. But if you get excited about making a dress and it turns out you have 6 strips this wide, well, that's going to be a bit more of a challenge than you anticipated. So when you have fabrics, you need patterns. And can you find patterns in secondhand shops? Oh yes, you can. I'm just going to show you a handful. Most of my patterns are from secondhand shops. Some of them are vintage and some of them are new. For example, my favorite of recent times, the Vogue 1990 pattern, that cost me about $1, and that's a 2015 pattern. Going to a slightly older Vogue, I love these Korea series. They have some really nice garments. This is all the skirts and the pants and trousers. Sorry, UK viewers, trousers. It cost me next to nothing and I just want to rescue these things a lot of the time, but I do think I will make at least one of them. Possibly, oh, I don't know. One of them. I seem to have picked out all of the Vogues by accident. I wasn't even thinking of it, but this is one I found a little while ago, so it's a more vintage style pattern, but I found it in an op shop for a couple of dollars at the most. These I bought brand new. They must have come from I don't know, a shop that was closing down or something, donated at stock. These were 50 cents each and I bought about half a dozen of various things, and these are the sleepwear ones, which I'm keen on at the moment because it's incredibly practical and useful thing to make. If you get lucky, you can score really well and have stuff sitting in your stash and go like, oh yes, that's a very nice robe. I think I'll make that. So I'm really hoping that I've proved to you that it's possible to go out to a secondhand shop and just have a really close look around and find some amazing things that are going to help you with your dressmaking and your sewing and your creating. And I haven't even got into knitting here, but oh my goodness, if you want a set of needles and some nice wool and a pattern, you can go into almost any secondhand shop and pick up something like that. It's not always easy, sometimes it's frustrating, and I would not recommend going out and saying, I want to find precisely this pattern and this fabric, because that's not going to happen. But if you go out with the idea that you think, I want to find something to do with sewing, and just keep your mind open and see maybe that's not exactly what you want, but perhaps it could work for you. So I don't want to go on a big lecture and say that everyone who buys fabric is wrong, or if you buy patterns new that's bad, because I have bought about 5 million patterns recently. There was a huge sale on. So this will be an ongoing series, as I said. I'm going to try and learn all sorts of tips and tricks to minimize our impact, and I'm going to share them all with you. And I hope you're all sewing and knitting and creating things and just having a fabulous time. And I would love to see you all again next week because I just enjoy my time with you, and thank you for subscribing to listen to me ramble on about stuff. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. It's sort of when I sort of venture onto something a little bit different. I don't want to be preachy or anything like that. I just want to sort of demonstrate it's possible to lower our impact even more and just do something, because better to do something than nothing. That's what I feel. But anyway, rambling aside, have a fantastic week. Keep doing all your amazing stuff out there, and I'll catch up with you all again next weekend.